I'd like to call to order the Bucksport Town Council meeting for Thursday, November 30th, 2017. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Joe York is absent. Paul Rabb.
Here.
David Key.
Here.
David Keane.
Here.
Peter Stewart.
Here.
Paul Goblin.
Here.
Robert Carmichael.
Here.
Item 3 is presentation of any town council recognitions. I don't believe we have any tonight. Going to item 4, consider minutes of previous meetings. We have none. Item 5, receive and review correspondence and documents. First one being Municipal Review Committee. Susan.
Yes, this is just the notification from the MRC that accompanied the check for the town's share of the, what was a debt fund, a $1.5 million fund that as part of the negotiation with the closure of, or the separation from PERC of the MRC, that this $1.5 million would be distributed as to each of the charter municipalities, and our share was $14,882.88, and we have received that.
What account does that go into?
That went back into transfer station reserve, which is.
Is that where it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions on that? Okay, we'll go on to item B. It's a letter for sidewalk maintenance. Susan?
Yes, I received an email from Jane Mead, and that was addressed to Father Skian, but it was copied to myself and another person as well. And there was a request in it that it be shared with the town council. And it's in regard to concerns about sidewalk maintenance around St. Vincent de Paul's Church. And I've talked with our Public Works Director. The snow is cleared in the area of Franklin, but some of what's discussed is difficulty with ramps and those kind of things, which are private property and not the town's purview. But we will, Jay is aware of their concerns, and we'll be making sure that the public aspects of this is taken care of as well as possible in the coming winter.
Thank you. Any questions on that from the public? Okay, we'll go on to item C. It's the SS Roosevelt Discovery Museum kickoff meeting, 12/1/17.
That's tomorrow at the Heart and Soul Building at 7 p.m. They're having I'm calling a coming out gathering in order to highlight their efforts to create this museum in the Bucksport-Verona region.
Okay. Any questions? If not, we'll go on to...
One more question. Are you looking to relocate that museum?
This museum is
Is that the museum you're talking about?
No, this is entirely different than that.
It is, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. This sounds like it's a group that's looking to possibly do something around the SS Roosevelt.
Okay.
I think we got a topic later on the agenda talking about the coming up here pretty soon, Historical Society building.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, we're going to go on to item 6, new ordinances to be considered or introduced. I don't believe we have any. Okay, we'll go on to item 7, discussion items for manager's clarification of direction or council discussions. First one being Maine revised civility program phone meeting. Susan, do you know anything about this?
Yes, I do. There was a meeting that some members of Heart and Soul attended in Freeport earlier this year, and at that meeting was a person who spoke about the Maine Revised Civility Program, which is an offshoot of the national Revived Civility Program, which when they came, the representatives came back, they indicated that the person who was the staff person for the main program was interested in talking to me about whether or not Bucksport would be interested in looking at participation or considering using any of their information in order to foster as civil an atmosphere in public discussions as possible. And so I participated in a phone meeting that included a representative from Heart and Soul, a representative from the Alamoosic People's Alliance, and myself, talking about how important it is that when we conduct our business that all voices are heard and that it's done in a respectful way. And I also had a meeting with the Alamoosic People's Alliance, who are represented here this evening, who are working on a welcoming initiative to best represent that the people of this region, and it's not just Bucksport, because there are members from many communities, that that this area is welcoming and an open, inclusive community. So the point of it being on the agenda is to talk about the fact that this national program now has a state office. The city of Augusta has adopted a proclamation in regard to its intent to conduct its business in a civil way, which might sound silly to have to say, but there have been times when things don't always go that way. And in conjunction with that, the Alamoosic People's Alliance wanted an opportunity to talk to the council about whether the town is interested in considering the adoption of a welcoming initiative for people of this area or people in the community. And they have a representative here. Joyce is here. She would like, anyone can speak, but they're here would like to talk to the council.
And I brought the welcoming community resolution to share with you.
Yeah, I can just pass it around.
Is there anybody else that I should give them to? Well, first I want to thank you for this opportunity to address you. As Sue mentioned, I'm Joyce Schelling, representing the Alamoosic People's Alliance Community Education Action Group. We're a grassroots organization, and our purpose is to mobilize, energize, and activate citizens in our region to engage in activities that promote healthy community. I happen to be from Orland, but the rest of our members that are here tonight as part of our action group are from Bucksport. And you probably know most of them: Mary Jane Bush, Sue Davis, Charlene Gilbert, Tracy Hare, and Julia Demaray. And so we've created a document which we're bringing before you tonight in the hopes that you'll consider it as a town resolution. And we feel that it creates a foundation from which to build a stronger and more resilient town. And part of this has come about from the fact that there's more incivility in our public sphere, and we've been alerted to the fact that there's incivility and intimidation and bullying in our own communities more than we realize, that there are people who are being intimidated or bullied because they're different. And that was sort of the impetus behind us taking this step. We thought it would be really helpful to have a foundation where everybody agrees that this is what we stand for. And we had actually planned to explore community models of education that would foster civil discourse, transparency, and civil inclusion. And then I was introduced, thanks to John Paul Lalonde, to Maine Revive Civility, and that seems to provide many of the tools that would be really helpful in achieving this person-to-person, neighborhood-to-neighborhood, or in meetings. So I'd like to just take a moment to read the welcoming community resolution to you, and to the people I gather, there are other people that might be listening in. So yes, we're part of a larger region. We have more people than just Orland and Bucksport, but the idea is that we would go to each town to say, would you like to adopt this resolution? So this one reads, we the people of the town of Bucksport are proud of who we are. We embrace our history, our roots, and know we are strong enough to work together to create a healthy future for our people and our community. We demonstrate the best that Maine has to offer. Our citizens are hard workers, creative, generous, and intelligent. The hardships of Maine winters have taught us endurance and the importance of helping others. Instead of looking for reasons to exclude people and or their talents, we appreciate the gifts they bring. We know how to get things done. We work with others to maximize outcomes for as many people as possible. We are grateful for our abundance of wildlife and the healthy habitats we maintain: lakes, ponds, rivers, mountains, forests, farm fields, and open space. We are grateful for what we have created together: our schools, our health center, our faith communities, our library, our nonprofits, our food pantries, our federal health center, our arts and recreational organizations, our businesses, our community centers, playgrounds, and more. We care about our neighbors, providing for those when they need a hand, knowing that even though we might look different, have different religions or no religion at all, have different amounts of education or wealth, we have similar needs: to be respected, to have freedom and choice, to be understood and cared for, to be safe, to learn and grow, to be healthy, to contribute to life. It is for these reasons that we wish to proclaim that we are a welcoming community. We are strong enough to cherish our traditions and welcome the new. The town of Bucksport welcomes all new residents and visitors to our community, remembering that we are either the descendants of natives or immigrants. We welcome all newcomers, including immigrants and refugees. We support their path toward citizenship, recognizing the extraordinary efforts and resilience of the individuals who move to our community under the most difficult of circumstances and who face barriers including unfamiliar language and culture. We know that when we join together for the common good, we are stronger, safer, more creative, and a potential for an even more vibrant and healthy community. And we're happy to take any questions or comments. And I'll sit down because any of us can ask.
Any comments from the public? If not, we'll go on to item B, which is 69 Main Street Economic Development Committee. Who's chair of that?
Can I just
Oh.
ask a question? What's going to happen in terms of the request from here with whether the town would adopt this resolution?
You would ask for it to be put on the next agenda as a resolve, because it wasn't on tonight's agenda. It would be introduced at the next meeting for consideration, if you choose to put it on the next agenda. That's what would,
We take a vote on that.
yeah.
How would the council like to proceed?
Make a motion, we put it on the next agenda as a resolve. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded to put the request on the next council meeting. Anything further from the public?
I would just like to say that, to me, it gives a foundation from which to do good work around here. Our intent is to talk with our neighbors, talk to people who might think differently from how we think, to sort of bridge some of the gaps that exist in our communities that we've gotten very aware of that exist. And sometimes people who make decisions are not aware of what the undercurrent can be. So it's meant to be proactive and keep problems from building up without us being aware of them. And I guess I'm also wondering whether you're interested in the Maine Revive Civility project and how that might be discussed.
Yes, sir.
I would just add that having been involved in the Heart and Soul program, but also being a relatively new person in the community 14, 15 years ago, I was very fortunate that there were people in this community that reached out to me and helped me find my way. And when I heard what she was reading, that I'm having a brain thing right now, but what's being presented to you folks to put on the agenda for the next meeting, to me, seems to be the essence of what this town is all about. And it's a very positive thing, and I would hope that you all are in agreement with everything that is stated therein. To my mind, that's what America's all about. And I would say, I'm glad to see it's being put down on paper that this town will look to accepting this way of looking at how you deal with people coming into the community. That's all I'm going to say.
I'd add that Joyce joined us at our third meeting of the Community Groups and Roles Committee, or whatever we call it. Just to again, enhance the communication, and she shared with us a little bit about what they're about and what this is about. And I would suggest that we maybe take some time at one of the next council meetings to learn more about and talk more about the civility program, the statewide program, and maybe at that point in time decide, where we want to go or what options there are for us to take, if any, at that point.
After reading this, I mean, all these things, I think our community is doing this now. I think people are generally welcome to this community. So I guess this, you're just asking for this to actually be part of the town language? I mean,
I guess I live in this community and that's not my experience. So I think there's experiences that differ among every resident of our communities, and I think it's important to recognize that people's experiences in this wonderful community are different. And so we're just asking that as a town, we support that everybody in this community has an experience that makes them feel safe and part of something.
yes, sir.
But no, by what process does this take place? Similar to what they went through with Heart and Soul, where they get people to come in and make statements, or are we gonna, people gonna sit down with each other face to face and talk, or are they gonna talk in front of groups and get people to talk to them, or, what's the process? Just,
I mean, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, I think right now what we're talking about is just an acknowledgement publicly, exactly what you just said. We feel we are, but maybe we need to proclaim it and let people know, and then it allows us to continue to act in a public way, closer towards those values or those things inherent to this statement. That's all I see, that part of it being right now. And to Jim's question, I don't know where that goes down the road or where we would go with it, but that's something that could be developed over time. I don't think we're talking about a formal town process. I don't think that's what you're asking down the road for that sort of thing.
It's more a foundational document, so that if we were to approach people saying, we want to know this is how you feel, it's just a way of promoting conversation and connection. And the Maine Revised Civility Project, which if you delve down deeper, has tools to promote more conversation between people. So it's, at this point, I think it's a foundational document saying, yes, I mean, this was written with the idea that, yes, this is what Bucksport is. We're recognizing that not everybody feels that way, and so how can we just make sure that we reach the others as well?
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't you, this is my thinking now, wouldn't you have this all in place before you had a resolve? Before you made that a rule? All these.
I don't think we're talking about a rule. I think we're talking about just a proclamation that philosophy more than anything with this document. I don't think it should be made any more complex than it is. Maybe I'm thinking differently, but
I think it's similar to, like the town of Bucksport certified business friendly. I mean, that's actually our proclamation that we're a business friendly community. And I assume that this would take the same path, that it would be part of our beliefs. So anyway, any other comments from the public? Any from the council? We have a motion and a second on the floor to bring this to a resolve at the next council meeting. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to go on to item C. Oh, no, we got to go back, don't we? Okay, we're going to go back to B, which is 69 Main Street, Economic Development Committee. Who's the chair of that? Economic Development?
I think I am. Yes, I do.
Pinch him, see if he'll
Yes,
wait.
it was discussed, what to do about it is my recollection. It's sitting there at present, just sort of gathering dust and hasn't been sold, and the price has stayed the same for a number of probably years now, and wondered if the town had any input or the public in regard to what their ideas as to what should be done. It's a prime piece of real estate, location-wise. I understand that there, and it was discussed that there's some problems with the basement that have to be resolved, but I don't think they're capable of being resolved. What do you remember from it, Rich, from the meeting?
The Economic Development Committee wanted to make sure that the building had an inspection to make sure before any decision was made on that by the town, if the town was going to take a stance in either direction. So I had a conversation with building owner Pam about the building. I talked with Danny. I met with Dan Burpee again today. There is no inspection. The last inspection would have been the one when Pam purchased the building, and we'll go back about 7 or so years ago. Since the article in the newspaper, over the Thanksgiving break, I did get 2 messages from people interested, one being a serious interest in the building. He had gone through with Dan Burpee in the building, and because of the water issues from out back with no drainage coming off of the Nason property and the water leaking into that building, as well as Andy Locker's at Bookstacks and Mr. Austin's, they had looked at with the contractor of raising the building up to street level. And with the cost of all that, I don't have it in written form, but roughly $100,000 in repairs to make that change and make the building upgrades as well. But Pam's here tonight as well.
Well, one of the other things we talked about too, and not doing that, but to fix some of that whole back area that involved several businesses, was having the town look at something to see if whether we could contract it out or work with our public works crew to at least alleviate some of that water issues that they had back there. That may help them not having to spend $100,000 to just fix that. If we looked at the whole block area there that included Andy's place and the community pharmacy and that whole area, because the consensus was that nobody wanted to tear that building down. That was what I got, and that's.
Yeah, there was some discussion about a forgivable loan included. Of course, previous to that, there had been the idea of taking the building out and an access point to more parking. But as Rich just mentioned, Ms. Payson is here tonight. She was not at the other meeting, and we really haven't heard from Pam to, what her thoughts are and what's she, came up at economic development, kind of was on the agenda, but we'd welcome to hear what the owner of the property has to say, I think.
Well, it's historically been here and been a flower shop.
Excuse me, Pam, why don't you go up front there?
So that they can hear you at home.
Max Levitt previously owned it when he had property up on River Road. Apparently he had a farm up there, and he would bring stuff in to sell there. From what I'm understanding, there was an extension put off the back of that building, and they did not extend the foundation. What they did was basically build kind of a deck sort of thing, and over the years that let loose. So that has been fixed, and so that was part of the reason. It's not so much that the basement failed, that the water just kept going underneath, because there's a right-of-way back there behind all of those buildings from the research that I've done, And that road just kept being built up and built up. Therefore, the three of us were experiencing all the water that came down from the Nason property, in addition to the septic system that went bad in that building. I spoke to Bill today, and he actually had to clean up the basement himself, and they had spoken to the previous town manager at that time to get drainage taken care of, as did when Sam and I had the property. We also spoke about it, as did the Austins, that we need something done with that property because the water runs right down to us. Bill went through several sump pumps. I think we've been through 3. That's how much water goes through there. So there is quite a drainage issue there. The foundation itself really isn't that bad, except for that back where they extended it, where that water has run through and just basically eroded it away. We actually applied for the facade grant to fix the front of the building because those pane glass, those are old-fashioned windows. They're not weather windows and they're not safety windows. So we had given information to, back then, Dave Mylan about the facade grant to have that changed, and we didn't get that grant, and we just didn't have the money to change the front of that building. So those need to be changed, obviously, for energy reasons. And it is an old building. It's been there for a long time, so it's not unlike any of the older buildings on Main Street. Sam and I have since divorced, and we don't really have an emotional attachment to that building. So we try to get in there and do as much upkeep to it as we can, but we're both working extra hours and other jobs, so it's not exactly on the top of our list of priorities as much as we wanted it to be. So, but the structure itself is pretty, I don't know about spending all that money to raise it. I think if you do something with the drainage, that would be a much more lucrative way to save that building. Even Andy has the problem because Andy's got a foundation, and when water runs down through there, it goes right onto his foundation because he's got a pad underneath that building, so he has a problem with flooding also when it's bad, especially wintertime, is when we have the problem because the ice builds up, the water runs down, and
Yeah, he showed us the pictures.
It's a mess.
It was a mess.
So, and in the springtime, the silt just goes through. The silt goes in there. You get down there, you shovel it up, you rinse it out. It looks great, but unfortunately, the water keeps seeping down into the basement from the upper part of the property, from the Nason property. So, you know, what do you do with that? There's no drainage except for in our basement. So, I think the bones of it are great. There's a couple of things that needs to be fixed. Bill went into that. The Levitt family wanted to, once Max had passed away, they wanted nothing to do with it. They locked the door. It was Christmas time, apparently. There were arrangements to be delivered. And they said, we need to do something with it. And it was one of those quick sales. So Bill walked into it. It already had the vinyl siding on it. The only thing he did for upkeep was to put the peaked roof on it. Apparently it used to be a flat roof and it used to leak. So his addition to that building was the roof. So the upstairs, second part of the upstairs was an apartment for Max's sister. And in the attic, I mean, you know, it's got good bones for somebody that is a carpenter who can do that. But I think if you can do something with the drainage, I don't think they'd have to raise the building. I really don't.
So you and your ex-husband still own that property?
We do. We do. So I think it's, like when I bought it, I think it's an adorable, cute building. It's different than the rest of them in town. And it's on Main Street. It needs upkeep. Bill didn't do the upkeep with it. Sam and I aren't carpenters. Both of us had jobs, and we were just looking for another business. I was looking to get out of the fire department, and that changed, so we're just now co-owning it and doing upkeep when we can. So that's about it.
Well, again, we own the Nason property. And I feel that probably the town is responsible to try to get some type of drainage to help those buildings.
When we were talking about what are we going to do, the plan that he was talking about there that was to finish that parking lot, part of that included installing catch basins and directing the water down through that right-of-way to the storm drains on Main Street. through a drainage system. I've met with the Austins and talked to them about what they've been through in terms of all that drainage. I have a DVD of it actually upstairs, but part of that discussion for a parking lot included the drainage improvements that would take care of those along Main, because that's what needs to happen there before it would require catch basins, and it would require directing it to Main Street for collection. So that is a possibility. But Rich, did I just hear you say that you had someone who is seriously interested in this property for?
Yes, they reached out to me on, actually, again, Monday of this week. They were in touch prior, after the Economic Development Committee meeting, and then reached back out to me again Monday, and they were going to have someone go check out the building and try to have numbers for me tonight on an actual what it would cost. I actually had spoken to Pam after our meeting before I came into here, and she actually explained the situation of the drainage. That's when catch basins came up and grading behind Andy's. Also, by making those improvements, which the fence out back has already come out, the town crew has removed the fence that separates the Nason property to the back of these buildings. So it would also bring backdoor entrances to these buildings as well, making some of them handicapped accessible like Andy's as well. So there's a lot that can happen with that lot that also impacts that building. But this person does have a plan. There's a plan in place, just waiting on final numbers with interest of that building. Just looking for some incentive from the town to assist.
One of the incentives would be hopefully not to have to raise it up $100,000 if we could fix the drainage there.
Well, if the town will add the drainage to the building, and according to inspection, that will be suffice to keep the water from flowing.
Because we talked about, access onto Main Street coming out of that right of way sucks.
Yes.
We'd much rather put people on Central Street and bring them into if we're going to have that as a back parking lot, but fix the drainage by keeping the building and allowing somebody to develop it, I think is the way to go. Instead of tearing something down just for the sake of making another entrance that really isn't going to be that productive. I don't think it's dangerous coming out there with sight lines and everything. So I think it's something that we ought to, like Davey said, see if we can't look at those fixes to fix, to make that right, and maybe help these folks out realizing that they can put that $100,000 towards something else besides having to just do an upkeep on the building, and maybe we can help out all the businesses back there, plus create some more parking and stuff. So.
Thank you.
I don't know who we push that to, Sue.
Well, it's streets and roads, but we had initially talked about this, and so if we're talking about wanting to look at what drainage improvements, we're going to have an engineer assess that, because it involves how much and
right.
all that kind of thing, that you would need an engineering review of that area to determine what kind of a design for a drainage system.
So the thought before it comes to streets and roads or any committee that you get that information.
I was going to say that would be necessary, but I would need to have authority to spend money in order to do that, because we don't have the ability on site. So I think probably, I don't know, I would hate to hazard a guess, but I would have to get.
Could you get a couple of estimates maybe, and then come back to us, and we can see?
I can do that,
okay.
So that we can
well,
move this along.
If we're going to do that, we might as well have the engineer
design the parking lot.
Exactly, yeah, the drainage and the parking lot.
With entrance from Central Street.
We're talking dealing with all the buildings.
Correct.
That's correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to need to, because
it's the town's property that's missing anyone else's property.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
That's,
I mean,
that's different than what it was some years ago. But yeah, the town's problem's part of property.
the building is gone, and a whole lot of stuff that it's just a straight shot now to.
But yeah, I think if we could get some estimates to get a start, and then we can talk about it and at least go from there. And I keep obviously pushing those folks if they want to do it, and just kind of give them an update of where we're at, and maybe they can buy an extra cooker or something if that's what they're looking to do in there.
That abuts Central Street town parking lot as well, right?
It does.
That's where you come out.
Correct.
Yes. It also joins onto the community pharmacy parking lot.
Right, correct, yes.
Make a drag strip out back out there.
And Peter suggested that maybe, we think about maybe some type of a pedestrian walkway there to get to the parking lots as opposed to that, it's like a one-way, well, I guess it's not even one-way, it can be two-way street that goes up through there, that right-of-way. And that is hard coming out on the main street from that spot. And,
Good walkway would be good right there.
but anyway, we're going to try to get some engineering proposals. Anything further from the public on this issue? Okay, we're going to go on to item C, which is Historical Society Building, possible renovation project.
That's you.
Okay. There's been a project that was out there for some time, it goes back a couple of town managers ago, of the possibility of possibly raising the historical building up to street level, because the visibility of it being down there, a lot of people don't even know it's a historical society facility. And I had approached the Historical Society group, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and they weren't really high on the concept. They own the building, the Historical Society does, but the town owns the land that it sits on. And I thought, it might be a good opportunity for a joint venture between the Historical Society and the community to actually raise that building up, slide it back closer to Main Street, and put like a daylight basement underneath it where possibly more museum exhibits could be displayed, possibly do something with, on the front of it, where you'd have like granite seating in like tiers that could be almost like an amphitheater looking out towards the river with a big courtyard down in front of it. By moving that building back, you get more of a green space down there. And Larry Walls did a quick sketch of the concept when we were talking about it, and I don't know how many people have that.
It was in the packet. Both of them were in the packet online. That one, which is that, and then
Okay. This would be, the historical building sits here right now. We're talking about moving it back, putting a nice wraparound deck on it. These would all be like granite steps, or look like an amphitheater, and it'd be a nice paved patio out in front. This would be kind of the concept, looking at it from the river. Here's your patio, your deck, and here's your seating area. And again, this was just a concept, and Larry put this together really quick. But the Historical Society had their meeting the 1st of November, and they came back with the approval to go ahead and at least look into the project, get some cost associated with jacking it up and putting on a daylight basement. So I would like to go forward with at least the proposal to get some estimates on what it might cost to do this project, and to see if there's enough interest in the community to expand the Historical Society building. There was some talk about possibly putting a paper museum underneath there. I don't know if that's the best use. There might be some other place in town that would be better fitted for that. But I guess what I'm asking is, does the town council have the interest in possibly pursuing at least a cost estimate to do this project?
And also, are there any, would explore any grant opportunities or something like that?
I think once we get some estimates, we come back and look at that whole package to see if we want to go after grants, or how we want to do that, or if we don't want to do it at all. So I've talked to a couple of contractors about giving us an estimate, and if I get the blessing from you guys, I'll pursue that a little bit further, and try to have something have something back by the 1st of the year. Okay? Yes, sir.
let me interject something here. I've been sitting here and I've, in the community for a number of years now, and I've heard a number of different thoughts about that building, lots of thoughts about the piece of property that you're trying to sell across from Napa, that kind of stuff. I've heard stuff about Wilson Hall. I've heard things about the area up by the swimming pool, and I think we're on the cusp of something like that. You know, we've lost the mill. We've got some stuff going on down there. We've got a lot of people kind of generating, working on where our interests are, and I think we're at a point where it'd behoove us to take a look at the whole Main Street town and get a plan that makes sense to everybody. Right now, we've got about 6 or 8 different groups that have different ideas. Somehow, we've got to coalesce them and come up with something that makes sense for us in the long run. Instead of just nickel-diming something here, nickel-diming something there, throwing something together that later on we find doesn't quite fit the image of the town that we want to have. I think we're at the point where it's time to look at the big picture. That's all what you just talked about was, the Sheehan property and the parking lot having created a problem. Now it's time to look at these things and say, hey, wait a minute, let's not create more problems. Let's look at the whole thing, take some time and plan it out. Figure out what our needs are, what do we want to do. That's what I think. And I think we're damn close to it, and I think one of the things is, I think losing that mill is a blessing in disguise. Because all of a sudden, we know we've got a number of big problems, and we also know that there are a lot of opportunities out there. And I think if you're looking for grant money, you ought to be looking for grant money to help make the whole community a better place, not just one little piece of it. Enough said.
Yes.
Many years ago, there was a group that formed to look at the development of a paper museum in our community. I really support this effort because I think that museum really, if you look at what happened with the project of Still Mill, and all of that history that unfolded through the publication of that book, I think that's such an important part of our town. And, this could be a public-private collaboration that could be formed. I've expressed some thoughts to other people in the past year about a collaboration between the Alamo Northeast Historic Film and the new art museum, the Lighthouse Museum, where you could have a variety of activities going on this theme, especially that would be attractive to tourists. In addition to, if this was developed to some degree within our current museum, a part of it about our paper-making history, that all these things could be tied together in an organized approach and really rotating activities and programs and really, could be, financially sustainable to some degree, but again, would be an attraction between those 3 organizations and businesses. So I would really like to say yay.
The one issue I have is that I've sat here for 4 years now, and before that, and we hear all these collaborations, town and private, and we got squat from private. If we're going to do something, it's time for the town. If that's what we want to do, is the town's going to do it. We sit here and we wait and we wait. We sat on Wilson Hall for 5 years waiting for private donations, and we wasted time, money, effort from a lot of people. And it may sound harsh, but at some point we've just got to make a decision as the town, and that's what we're going to do and go forward with it. Or stop doing it, because we can't sit here and keep talking about private, public, because it doesn't work. We've got, you know, a couple dozen people that you see show up at all the things, and those couple dozen people are not gonna support some of the projects that we're talking about. So we've got to decide as a town, if that's what we want to do, the 7 of us up here are going to make those decisions and say, yes, we're going to do it, and we'll go forward. If not, then we're going to go on to something else.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
In 1875, they didn't build their depots up on the hill. They didn't have enough brakes to hold the train up there while people were loading and unloading.
Again, I agree with Councilman Stewart on the way he's looking at this thing. That, you know, this is a town-wide kind of thing that we need to be looking at. And I think the whole idea of a paper museum is bigger than that building could take care of. I think you've got a whole place that had a paper factory on it. I think there may even be a building there, or there may be, I think that's a place to do a paper museum that's the state of Maine. Museum for the state of Maine kind of thing.
You're talking about a property we don't own.
I understand.
Okay.
I do understand that, but this is the time when you start talking about what's the big picture for this town.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking about little tiny pieces of the town, think about what this town is in this region. What do we stand for? What did we stand for? That's where I'm coming from.
My interest in it initially was the fact that it's kind of strange that there's one entity that owns the building and another entity owns the land underneath it. And we're the entity that owns the land, and it's a very vital piece of property on our waterfront. And I think our waterfront is a big part of our future. So what is the best way of utilizing that space? And this is just one idea about utilizing that space, and there might be a dozen other ideas of utilizing that space, but we need to start talking about it.
And there's a lot of people that go through this town and don't even know that there's a waterway there.
So,
Mayor, you need a motion.
no, not really.
Do that.
You guys have just kind of given me a blessing to go ahead and, so we got to move on. We got quite a bit more, unless somebody has something really important they want to talk about on this issue.
I just think it'll look beautiful.
Okay, let's go on to item D, is the town report dedication, ideas for 2016, 2017.
Since
Susan?
the year just ended, we're getting ready to put that report to print. I'm pleased to say that the prior 3 years are also done and posted online, and 2 of those weren't even mine.
Thank you.
Part of
Thank
the
you.
third. But they're done, and there are some copies there that will be ready next week, but they are all now posted online as well. But 2 of those years don't have a dedication because I was working to get all of the required elements in for, we have one every year.
You were
and
dedicated
then
to something else, right?
What's that?
You were dedicated to working on that.
I was dedicated to getting them done. But for 16, 17, you generally pick a person or a group or somebody to dedicate the report to. We had talked about, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, my thought is that, you know, for a couple of years now, we've gone through a lot. This whole town has gone through a lot. And everybody in this community has pulled together to get over the fact that we lost the mill. And, you know, maybe it's a good idea to dedicate it to the citizens of the town of Bucksport, the town report. I don't know if it's ever been done like that or not, but it's a community thing, that the reason why we are where we are today and we're pulling through this. So, you know, actually dedicate it to the people of Bucksport, the people that want to make this town thrive. But that's just an idea.
Second.
But
I think
it's a great
I think it's a great
I
idea.
think that's
I mean, there are a lot of groups and activities, people that are working hard right now.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's our town, you know, and the people of this town, you know, the town report should be dedicated to them.
Great idea.
Well, we don't want to do that for both years, do we?
It's this one, 16, 17 is one fiscal year. We're in the middle of the next one. So, no, this.
Any other suggestions?
You win. Good job. Good job. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, we're going to go on to agenda items. First one being to approve resolve R 2018-29 to approve disposal rules for the transfer station. Solid waste. Joe's solid waste.
Joe Solid Waste, but Jeff is here, and he worked with the committee on this and can answer questions for, explain where we are with it.
Good evening. So what we have here, first of all, are the revised disposal rules for the transfer station. They were formerly located in Appendix I, which is a solid waste flow control ordinance. You may recall you approved changes to that ordinance at your last meeting, and it included taking out the rules as well as the schedule of fees, which we'll get to next, and putting them in a separate document. In the process of doing that, these rules were reformatted, and requirements that have been in place at the transfer station for years but never really carefully put down in words are now in these rules, just to add clarification as to how business is conducted at the transfer station. There was some confusion that was brought to my attention about the acceptance of tires. I have learned that it's been the practice for years to accept tires with rim sizes greater than 17 inches as long as the tires are cut in pieces. Interestingly, I look back at the old Appendix I and the old set of rules, and those rules actually prohibit the acceptance of tires with rim sizes greater than 17 inches, just prohibit them altogether. I don't think that's been the practice, though, of the transfer station staff, in the past few years anyway. So these rules make it clear that they do accept tires with rim sizes greater than 17 inches as long as the tires are cut into pieces.
How many pieces?
It's my understanding that at one time, PERC couldn't accept tires of any larger than that. But it was my understanding that was not accurate now, that many tires are 20 inches or 18, and they're passenger vehicle tires. They're not, that the difficulty was with commercial truck tires, the larger ones. Jay, our Public Works Director, spoke to me yesterday about the idea that he believed that it was commercial the larger ones that were the issue, because the PERC's ability to handle these tires wasn't limited to 17 inches. And I reached out to PERC this afternoon, and I didn't get a response from them, but Jay's...
I can respond to that.
He can respond to it. Eddie can respond to it.
I know we can, because we've talked.
I can't see you, Ed.
You hiding?
Well, they can grind now, PERC can grind, they can grind a big tire, big truck tire. But back when this was all written, a 20-inch tire was considered a dump truck tire. Well, now Subarus have 20-inch tires. And a 17-inch tire now, a 20-inch tire is smaller in diameter, overall diameter, because it's a low-profile tire. So I think limiting it, we've never had to cut a tire, never. 20-inch or whatever, 17. But I think 17, you really got to go to at least a 20, because you're going to be finding these things thrown everywhere. I'm not going to keep them at my facility if I can't get rid of them. So if I give them to you and throw them in your vehicle and you can't get rid of them, what are you going to do with them? Throw them in the camp. or take them somewhere, then the town crew will be picking it up.
Have you been taking 18, 19, 20-inch tires there
Yeah.
now? And no issues,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and they're smaller than a,
Right, but I'm saying
Pickup tire.
they've been being accepted there
Yeah.
now with
Yeah.
no issues, yeah.
and we can take 15 to a time off rims. And I don't think it's an issue, because your hopper is not being utilized as much because of the recyclable thing now, zero solar. So it's not an issue with PERC whatsoever. They can grind the truck and all now. So that's not an issue.
No, the tires go into the,
They go to PERC, go into a grinder.
but they go into the hopper?
Yeah, yeah, go right in the hopper.
The issue that Dan from the facility spoke about is taking 15 tires at a time was really messing up the compaction into the blue trailer. It reduces considerably the amount of, if you want to call it, standard municipal waste that would be
Compaction,
compact into the
That's all you
trailer.
did.
So I asked a fellow who runs 2 repair shops and towing service here in Ellsworth and in Bucksport, and he said that he'd like to see it back to 10 tires, but 5 would be okay if that's the way we want to go. And his thought process was that he throws tires in his dumpster already. You know, what we're proposing in here is anybody, any townsperson can, from a resident, it's a bucket tire. So you're right, they can be placed with the town resident, and they can bring them in, pay a bucket tire, or they can leave it with the garage. The garage is going to now charge a disposal fee, could charge a disposal fee of $2 or more. But I see the solution is, okay, granted, take it up to 20. One possible solution is allow up to 20-inch, but I'm still not in favor of 15 tires at a whack coming in, and then we end up with less space to take care of our standard trash, so to speak.
Well, I don't think 5 tires is the answer. I mean,
Well,
and you
all
should
I'm
be
saying-
charging for them to start with.
All I'm saying is that I think this one fellow just has a dumpster and he throws them in. It's probably quicker for him, and if, you know, you need a bigger dumpster to handle the tires, then there's your disposal fee. But the committee, Municipal Waste Committee, we've had discussions, we've had meetings, we have other folks in the room at times that have their own repair shops, and not one person came up and had an issue with going to 5 tires. So that's just my thought. We've gone through this.
5 tires in 1 week per person, that's, I don't think it's right.
Does PERC take like a whole trailer load of tires at a time?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. If you fill that hopper right full with all tires,
Well,
they take it.
I'm just saying, because of the interference with municipal waste, would we be better off having a designated trailer where tires go to, and we haul that truckload of tires once a month or whatever to PERC?
That's another added expense. You'd have to buy the roll-off or rent it or whatever, but if it's going in the hopper now, you're talking maybe 1 extra trip.
Well, not if people are bringing in 10 or 15
Well, no, most
tires.
people don't. It's just us garages that's going to do that. Most people are going to bring in 2, 3, 4, 5 tires when they're cleaning out their garage because they're tripping over them. Like I said, I probably do. When I take a load out, I take 15 because I save them out front so I don't have to go out there, 2 or 3 times. But, I could about average 4 or 5, when I'm on that, it'd be half dozen a week, but.
I look at it, I mean, if you moved it up to 8, that's 2 cars, for somebody that has a garage, if they're changing. 5's just a weird number. I mean, most people are taking the 4 cars.
Well, I don't see why the town should buy or rent a roll-off dumpster.
I didn't say
when-
rent it out.
When
I'm
these
saying
individual
Put it in the hopper.
places
I
can
didn't just
just,
throw them in the hopper, but I'm looking at, and when we discussed this, there was still discussion that a lot of us weren't happy with the number. I mean, I wasn't on the committee, but I was
No, I was
voicing
there
it.
too.
And 10 is even reasonable, but, I mean, I think 5 is not feasible.
Is there any difference between commercial and personal right
No,
now? Or-
no.
So it's one price?
There's no price.
There's no, I mean, no.
There's no price.
There's
And
prices
there shouldn't
coming
be.
out.
Yeah, I saw the new, yeah.
There shouldn't be any price. That's not on here either.
It's coming up.
Right.
It's next.
That's in the next one.
That's the fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
That's where I
charge
started.
people disposal fee?
And if
Some,
they-
some garages do.
They do, but I don't, and if I start, I know what's gonna happen. You're gonna I ain't paying you $4. I'll take them home and throw them out back. Just exactly what's gonna happen.
Who was that? No one said anything about $4.
That's the next paragraph, or next resolve, whatever you wanna call it. That's just, I think it ought to be 10, no fee, and 20 inch. 20-inch tire is smaller than a 17 overall. Weight-wise, diameter-wise, because every 20 inch, I mean, there's exceptions, but they're low-profile tires. 265/17 is 4 inches taller than a 20-inch tire.
Well, what happens in April 1st? What happens in April 1st when we go to MRC? And the town of Orland goes to their own facility. His business is in Bucksport, I understand that.
Right.
His business is in Bucksport, he's a resident of Orland, that's fine and dandy. But anybody that comes in now gets tires done, if they go, no, I'm not gonna pay $2 a tire from you, I'm gonna take it myself for $1 a tire. They've gotta take it to Orland now, if they're an Orland resident, or Prospect, somebody from Prospect has to take it to Prospect, or whatever Rhode Island does, I mean.
You'll see them over the boat landing on the way home.
Well, I
Well, you're
think
gonna
that
see
if
it, trust me.
if a leaf falls out of a tree around here, somebody sees it and they call the police to go take action on it, so I just,
Okay, all right, but I just think, this is part of the service the town gives to the taxpayers, and I don't think they ought to be bending it in half. This was
I think the whole process was to get us back to the point that these aren't exorbitant fees. I'm reading it right now. A tire is $1 per tire for a resident and $2 per tire for a business. The whole point we were trying to do with this was to get it back. I don't think this is outrageous. We've asked folks about for those that are in the roofing business, they said they could go as high as X. We didn't even approach X. We're trying to make it reasonable for everybody, but we're also trying, I think, my opinion is, we're trying to make it for the town of Bucksport, not supporting the other towns around us by,
well, we're part of this too.
putting on the fee.
Allen's part of this.
I understand that, but we put a new skid loader in place. That was the cost of the town of Bucksport. We $10,000 into the trailer to repair. That was done by the town of Bucksport. We bought a tractor to haul things around. That was done by the part of Bucksport. And I'll bet there wasn't $1 changed in the amount that you guys pay on a dumping fee over to us. So I don't want to go down that road.
Well, that's calculated into that fee, so I'll argue that point as well if I have to. But I don't think you should be charging for it, because you're gonna be running into problems. And the town crew will be picking them up at the town's expense, so that's just my,
Is that the same with all businesses around here? Are they not charging for? I mean,
no one I know
you go up to
around here
Bangor,
charges.
you-
Bangor does, but
Oh, they charge you.
who does? Around here?
Yeah. You might be the only one that doesn't.
I mean, that would be a real issue.
My guy just puts
You
them
might
in
be
his
the
own
only one
dumpster.
that takes them around here.
The other guys do a lot more tire business, so like Ed said, they've got their own gizmo outside, they just stack them and then take them away all at once. The guys up in Bangor and Brewer, the Sullivan tires, the big guys that make a living, and that's all they practically do is tires,
Well, this is just my argument, and you're gonna do what you're gonna do anyway, so. I think it ought to be 10, 20-inch tire and no fee.
So these These proposed regulations for tires came from the operator of the transfer station who wanted to be here tonight but had a prior commitment and he couldn't make it. May I suggest if you'd like to give this more thought and perhaps get input from Mr. Robinson, that you table this resolved until the next meeting and perhaps you could come and answer your questions?
Well, I think that would also give Sue a chance to hear from PERC, because I agree that there's more than 17-inch tires, and if they can take 20-inch tires, and I think that's something we ought to look at. So Sue, I'd be all in favor of tabling this until the next meeting, and have Sue get some answers for me at least.
The average truck nowadays that you go by has an 18-inch tire or a 20-inch tire, so you're gonna tell me that I can't bring my tires to the station without cutting them in half. What am I supposed to cut them in half with? I'm asking.
No,
I'm just saying that once upon a time, that rule made sense apparently, because the ability of PERC to process them, anything larger than a certain amount, but PERC's 25 years is a long time. Technologies have changed, and they have the ability to not exactly grind the truck, but do a lot more than they used to, and that, I just think that this tire size issue shouldn't be in there at something that requires people to go through something that...
I agree with what Councilor Gavin is saying. I don't, because to me that's a light truck. I'm thinking of heavy-duty trailer truck, those huge tires.
Right.
They shouldn't even go near the hopper again.
What is actually driving these changes right now?
The proposed limitations on tires is coming from the operator of the transfer station. These are his proposals.
Okay, but I mean...
And why he's proposing it, you'll have to ask him that question.
I mean, you know, we got a major change coming April 1st in the way we dispose of municipal waste. Do we need to maybe wait a little while after and then decide whether we need to make changes at that time, as opposed to making changes now that we might have to come back a few months from now and have to change them all over again?
Well,
what are we gaining by passing this right now?
We can wait. I can tell you that the MRC had asked specifically when they had the meetings up at the community center. You asked specifically, are you still, the MRC is still going to take tires, and they said yes.
With any size limit?
We didn't get into the details, but I guess that'd be a question too for the MRC, if we're going to have tires and what the sizes would be.
Well, how would the council like to proceed?
Make a motion to table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this item to
A and B.
for further consideration.
It should be A and B.
Well, we haven't even talked about B yet.
Table one, you have to table two.
Hmm?
So if you table one, you're going to have to table two.
You're talking about the fees, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear from Danny directly, if he's the one driving the background of this as well.
Okay.
Not that you didn't do an eloquent job explaining some of the background, but it sounds like, you know, he's part of the...
So is the motion to table both A and B?
Yes.
Second.
Kathy, you get that? Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table both A and B. One is disposal rules, the other one is disposal fees. Anything further from the public?
Yeah. One more. Are you gonna table this until April, or until you go with MRC?
We'll table it until we get an answer from Sue, and then we'll decide when she wants to put it on the agenda. But it's probably going to be deciding what MRC is going to do and figure out from there. That's my thought, anyway.
There's a timing issue here, though, because you have amended the solid waste flow control ordinance, and you've taken out the rules, you've taken out the fees. They're no longer in our town code. They're in the resolve we're looking at tonight. When Appendix I becomes effective, which will be, I think, December 9th, or right around that time, and you don't have these in place, then you won't really have any fees, a fee schedule that you can apply, or rules that you could apply to the operation of the transfer station.
Should the council choose to, it could vote to continue with the same fee structure it has
Well,
right now and
That was
until
going
a
to be
new
my
one's
next point, yes,
established.
you can actually,
Yeah.
but I wanted to bring that up because
Oh.
you really need to do something about it if you're not going to adopt these resolves tonight.
We haven't been charging fees right now, have we?
For
For
demo
for
and
things,
stuff.
yeah.
Demo.
We have for demo.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further from the public? Yes, sir.
Yes, I think that we should bring this, table this, and maybe take it off the table and bring it back to the ordinance committee, because at that ordinance committee, Orland did not have any representation. And according to our bylaws, Orland is on that committee and supposed to have a representative here. So I think the whole thing should go back to ordinance, giving Orland the opportunity to participate in that conversation with the fees and with the rules, unless the council wants to wait until April and take that back up.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table both item A and B. Anything further from the public, from the council?
Can we just, for this resolve about fees, just say that we continue with the existing fee structure so we don't mess up previous work we've done?
Well, that would have to be a motion after we do this, okay?
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now how would the council like to proceed on the,
Make a motion, we continue the current fees, solid waste fees.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to maintain the current solid waste disposal fees that are in place now. Any further from the public? Council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, we're going on to item C, to approve Resolve R 2018-31, to approve the 2018 update to the Hancock County Hazardous Mitigation Plan.
Yes, this is the 2018 update. There's been a committee that's been working on this. The resolve that needs to be signed by, adopted and signed by members of the council, just affirms Bucksport's continued commitment to be a part of this plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and second to approve the resolve. Anything further from the public? Yes, sir.
I didn't see, I read through that today, I didn't see any representative from Bucksport on that committee that made these decisions as to what this is all gonna be.
The update, the original, this update, the plan, the update to the plan, the original plan itself involved representation from the town of Bucksport, and they were the members on the committee that updated. Information was transmitted to the town through that process, even though the town didn't have a representative on it.
So we're only approving what they decided.
What's actually part of the Hancock County Commissioners, that we belong to Hancock County, so it's the
There were a lot
commissioner.
of warm seats at those meetings, as far as that, there's quite a list of people that were at those. There was nobody from Bucksport that was out.
Our representation was from the county commissioners, though, and that's what we were going with, the way I understood it.
Okay, we did have a motion and seconded. Anything further from the public, from the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item 9 is resignations, appointments, or assignments.
We have to sign that last one.
Huh?
We have to sign that last one.
Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
she's-
Just a
she's gonna
second.
send it out,
There's
yeah.
not enough lines here. Hold on.
We don't have any appointments, okay? Item 10, approval of quitclaim deeds. The first one being David Caruso, map 33, lot 43, sewer lien discharge. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have motion and a second to approve the quitclaim deed for David Caruso. Anything from the public? From the council? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Next one being Jamie Collar and Mary Faith Odom, map 24, lot 14, for tax liens. How would the council like to proceed?
Motion approved.
We have motion and a second to approve the quitclaim deed for Jamie Collar and Mary Faith Odom for tax liens. Anything from the public? Council? All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes. Town Managers Report. Susan?
A reminder that the Parade of Lights will be held on Saturday, December 9th at 5 p.m. We've had a lot of interest in this parade, and we're looking forward to a lot of wonderful entries. There are a lot of other events coming up that I'm sure our Economic Development Director will be telling you about when he steps up to the mic during the open session part. We had a department head meeting on 11/29, which included a discussion of the establishment of a separate safety committee for the town. Up until now, the safety committee has worked as part of the department head meeting process. But our participation, our designation as a SHAPE community and through the LEADER program for MMA has requested a separate safety committee. So we're establishing that in order to meet those terms to keep those designations, which helps our insurance costs. Another item that was discussed was storage needs of different departments and then building and security issues, as well as the initial discussion of our upcoming budget process, which starts in January. The Bucksport Y Recreation Program has done a great job to fix up the skating rink, including new paint, a liner, and skate storage units. So with a little more cold weather, we should have a great facility for winter skating, and I'm hoping that many people will take advantage of that. Developer Richard Campbell will be attending the council meeting on December 14th to give the council an update on progress made with the proposal submitted for the renovation of Wilson Hall. He had indicated that he would report back on a monthly basis. He will be here on the 14th. The annual meeting of the Municipal Review Committee is being held on Wednesday, December 13th from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Public Safety Training Room at the Hamden Town Office, and as a board member of the MRC, I will be attending that meeting. A reminder to everyone to check out the ADAPT Facebook page and website to keep current with the work being done on the EPA grant for redevelopment of the former mill site. And it is still possible, if you haven't yet done so, to participate in the survey online through that process at the ADAPT website. And I'm happy to report that I received notification today that Eastern Maine Development Corporation has named Bucksport as the 2017 Community Champion of the Year, and the award will be presented at the EMDC annual meeting on Monday, December 18th at the Hilton Garden Inn in Bangor. In the letter to me in regard to this, they said EMDC appreciates the impressive work the town of Bucksport has put forth in the community. Your continued dedication to Maine is a testament to how much we can continue to transform. We are honored to have the opportunity to recognize the town of Bucksport for everything that you do. And that, as stated earlier by Mayor Keene, and the nomination for dedication of the town is thanks to the efforts of the citizens of this community who are all working so hard for it to be a good place.
Okay, item 12, set public hearings or hold public hearings and approval of any licenses or permits. I don't believe we have anything tonight. Okay, we'll go on to item 13, discussion items not on the agenda for the council and the public. I'll open it up to the public first. Any discussion items?
Good evening again. I have a list of events that will be going on for the rest of the month of December. December 9th, as town managers said, the Parade of Lights, it'll begin at 5 p.m. We'll be down at the former mill parking lot and end right here at the town office. December 14th will be Night on the Town. That's when there's musicians on the streets and in the local businesses as well. There'll be a picture-taking station inside the Heart and Soul building that evening. December 21st, the high school will hold its winter concert. That'll be at the Performing Arts Center. On the 22nd, there will be community caroling with the Bacchus group. And on December 31st will be the downtown ball drop.
Thank you. Any other discussions items from the public? Can you come up here, please?
Sure thing. Jim Morrison, East Bucksport. I recently heard that Chief Bowden has retired. I was wondering if that was true, and if so, I also heard that he's going to be staying on and retaining his job that he has now. Is that just a rumor?
You want to answer that, Susan?
Yes, Chief Bowden retired, took advantage of the opportunity to be able to collect his Main State retirement and return to and remain in his job here, which is something that the town has allowed to occur on other occasions over time.
So he is still at his salary, plus he's taking his retirement?
That's correct.
Good.
Any other discussion items from the public? Council?
I got one thing. Sue, in reference to that, the town pays no more money, correct?
The town pays no more retirement contributions for him during that.
Or benefits.
So they save money.
We pay less now because we pay no more retirement for him. That's
Thank you
correct.
very much.
Health insurance as a benefit continues. The benefit that doesn't continue is the town's contribution to retirement and no further long-term accrual of sick time at the time that he terminates employment. There's no payout of sick time. That's done.
Thank you.
Any question items from the council?
Yeah. Jeff, there's a couple properties up on the Upper Long Pond Road. Are you aware of those that are, one looks like a travel trailer, and there's one that's even further out that's just, looks like guys living in a Connex trailer or something?
Yes, I've been involved in both those properties.
Okay.
In fact, one of the owners of the property up there was in to see me today.
Okay.
To give me an update on his progress in bringing his property into compliance with our
Okay.
town code.
Thanks.
Any other discussion items? If not, we'll go on to item 14, designated topics for committee assignments or scheduling of committee meetings. I don't believe we have any. We didn't send that back to the ordinance committee, did we, on that?
I think it was solid waste anyway. I don't think it was
Okay, let's go on to item 15.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion, a second for adjournment. All those in favor? Opposed, motion passes.